Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Flick. I'm the Associate Marine Extension Director with the University of Georgia's Marine Extension and Georgia Sea Grant Program. Welcome to our first Coastal Georgia Tourism Conference discussion on outdoor recreation and sports. I'm excited to have George Dusenbury, who is the Southern Hub Director for the Trust for Public Land, which is a national organization dedicated to creating parks and protecting lands for people. So Dusenbury leads a team of professionals who are working to improve access to several natural resources in the state of Georgia. And he's going to talk a little bit about what they do and the connection of outdoor recreation sports to coastal Georgia. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to George.
Thank you, Brian, for that kind introduction. I'm honored and excited to be joining you here at the 2020 Coastal Georgia Tourism Conference. As Brian said, my name is George Dusenbury, and I am the Georgia-Alabama State Director for the Trust for Public Land. I've been working in conservation and with communities throughout my career. Before coming to the Trust for Public Land, I served as the Parks Commissioner for the City of Atlanta. I'm Executive Director for a nonprofit called Park Pride, which is active in Metro Atlanta. And I worked for Congressman John Lewis for 10 years, 6 up in DC, 4 in Atlanta. I was his legislative director and his district director. Along the way, I've done my best to help people improve the quality of life in their community, and the Trust for Public Land is a perfect organization for doing that. Now, I'm going to ask everybody here to close your eyes and go to your happy place. That place when you're stressed. And a lot of us are going there today in the pandemic. And normally I do this in a live audience to ask people to raise their hands if where they are is outdoors, if they're looking at the outdoors, if they are outdoors. And I guess you can use the chat function to raise your hand if that's the case. And then I ask people to open their eyes and look around the room. And what you'll see is about 90% of the people have their hands raised. And the reason they do that, and here's kind of my happy place with Chattahoochee, is because there is an innate connection between land and people. When you are outside, it reduces stress, increases cognitive ability, it lowers your blood pressure, decreases hypertension, combats obesity, even lowers cholesterol. Just sitting in a park lowers your cholesterol. And most importantly, and for this presentation in particular, it makes you happier. People want to be outdoors. So, the mission of the Trust for Public Land is to protect and build those happy places for people. Communities at the heart of our work, which is we approach through the 3 pillars of equity, through public health, and through climate resiliency. As you may know, parks and public lands provide tremendous social, public health, and environmental benefits for people, which is why the Trust for Public Land believes that every American should have easy access to a safe, quality park. No matter where you are or where you live, you've probably visited a place protected by the Trust for Public Land, very likely a close-to-home site you know and love. Founded in 1972 and operating from more than 30 offices nationwide, we've created more than 5,000 special places and protected more than 3 million acres across the country. From your neighborhood playground to your favorite national park, from the walking trail down the street to our country's most vast and wild escapes, we help communities across America protect the places that matter most to all of us. Since 1996, we've guided bipartisan political action on more than 500 ballot measures across more than 30 states nationwide, generating nearly $68 billion in public funds for healthy land and water. I guess more than 70 now. That included the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Amendment in 2018, and actually advocating very strongly for the Great American Outdoors Act, which Congress recently passed and President Trump signed into law, which is going to double the federal investment in public lands annually. But the true measure of our success is the millions of people whose lives are touched by these places every day. From neighborhood parks to national parks, today more than 8 million people live within a 10-minute walk of a place created or protected by the Trust for Public Land, and countless more visit them each year. While the Trust for Public Land has been active in Georgia since the 1970s, we did not open our Georgia office until 1991, and we celebrate our 30th anniversary next year. You will recognize some of Georgia's most iconic public places in this slide, places that drive tourism and economic development. TPL's second Georgia project was to add about 200 acres to Cumberland Island National Seashore. You also see here that we've helped preserve land in such destinations as Fort George, Chief Van's House, and Kennesaw Mountain, all tourist attractions. Hardman Farm, which I understand is the most photographed site in all of Georgia, also is a TPL project. And while we have done many projects across Georgia, we're particularly proud of 3 of them. In the 1970s, we actually were contacted by Congress and asked to help create the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park and the National Historic Site. Earlier this century, the Trust for Public Land played a crucial role in launching the Atlanta Beltline. A graduate thesis centered on spurring community development by adding transit to abandoned rail corridors had captured the city's imagination. The Trust for Public Land saw the potential of adding parkland to the vision, where we hired a renowned urban planner to create a green space vision for the Beltline, and then acquired $47 million worth of property in the project's early days to create the momentum necessary for success. Finally, the Chattahoochee River has been at the heart of our work for Georgia. We have preserved more than 18,000 acres and 80 miles of riverfront along the Chattahoochee during the 25 years with which we've worked on it. Today, I've been asked to talk to you about outdoor recreation sports and how they can contribute to tourism in coastal Georgia, and specifically about the Georgia Outdoor Recreation Coalition. So what is outdoor recreation? It's pretty much any activity that you can do outdoors. I've listed some of the more popular outdoor recreation activities, as well as a smattering of more niche activities, the garden tours, airsoft paintball, to give you a sense of it. Professionals will delineate between team sports, and I'm not really going to focus on that, and other forms of outdoor recreation, which are the ones you see here. So, why is the Trust for Public Land so engaged in outdoor recreation? Well, we are the conservation organization. We talk about our mission as being land for people. And at the intersection of land and people is outdoor recreation. It is the common thread that unites people to the land. And you cannot have outdoor recreation without both land and people. We also recognize that it is through outdoor recreation that people learn to love the land, for we love what we know. Of all the national conservation groups, I believe that the Trust for Public Land clearly is the one most focused on outdoor recreation. The Trust for Public Land's Georgia office made an important investment in outdoor recreation 3 years ago when we agreed to take over responsibility for hosting the Georgia Trail Summit. Here I want to stop and give a shout out to Tracy Sanchez. I'm guessing a lot of people on this call may know Tracy, who's now working with Explore Georgia. But before that, as a volunteer, she launched the Trail Summit while working with the Georgia Trail Alliance, and they hosted several summits before TPL became so actively engaged. In addition to promoting and advocating for trails, the Trust for Public Land hoped that the summit would provide a platform from which we could build relationships and amplify the importance of preserving land for people statewide. At the 2019 Trail Summit, our first, featured a panel on the offices of outdoor recreation, put together by a gentleman named Daniel Jesse at REI. Georgia had just enacted the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act, I talked about that earlier, and there was interest in identifying GOSA 2.0, the next big idea for promoting the outdoors. There was also a desire to use the momentum of GOSA and the coalition that supported it to move an outdoor agenda forward in some way. The Outdoor Industry of America has been advocating for the creation of offices of outdoor recreation, which became a focal point of the panel. So, what is an office of outdoor recreation? The purpose of the office is to ensure that outdoor recreation is at the table and part of the conversation when governments determine priorities and engage in policy discussions. Utah created the first Office of Outdoor Recreation in 2013. Since that time, a dozen other states have formed offices of outdoor recreation. Office of Outdoor Recreation come in many shapes and sizes because outdoor recreation touches so many government functions. It strengthens quality of life, improves public health, and drives economic development, making it relevant to the Department of Natural Resources, Transportation, and Economic and Community Development. Because outdoor recreation does not fit neatly into a single department, it is important to have an office that bridges the multiple government functions to foster collaboration and produce better policy decision and funding investments. Working with experts nationwide, we learned that there are two important questions to answer when forming an Office of Outdoor Recreation, or OREC. First is how to create the office, either legislatively or administratively. While legislatively is preferred, it often is a heavier lift than having a governor establish the office through an administrative order. The second issue is where to house the Office of OREC. It can be housed in a department or within the office of the governor, and where to house OREC often varies from state to state. Of course, we also will have to tackle the issue of how to fund it. So, as the panel generated enthusiasm for the Office of Outdoor Recreation, it also generated a desire to build a coalition of outdoor advocates that would provide political support for policies and investments that benefited the outdoors. From that panel, the Georgia Outdoor Recreation Coalition, or GORK, was born. Here you see a list of current participants. We've worked to build as diverse a coalition as possible, recruiting representatives from nonprofits, industry, and government. We continue to recruit new members with an emphasis of building a statewide coalition that sees the common value of our work. We always are looking to get more people involved and could use some more representatives from the coast. So if my presentation inspires you to participate, or if you have any questions and want to learn more about GORK, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. 2021 is going to be a very active and hopefully productive year for GORK, and we would welcome you being a part of it. So following the 2019 Georgia Trail Summit, GORK developed a mission and vision statement while identifying the goals that we hope to accomplish. We then stood up committees to develop and help implement strategies for achieving these goals. I just want to dive a little bit into each of these. Given the pandemic and the anticipated financial impact, we really backburnered this first goal of increasing public and private investment. We needed more certainty before we want to establish that. In regard to the Office of Outdoor Recreation, I talked about the work we've already done. The Georgia Trail Summit will be November 9th and November 10th of this year. And on the afternoon of November 9th, we're going to finalize our strategy for moving forward. We believe that there'll be opportunities to perhaps recruit a lone executive from one of Georgia's corporate leaders, like a Georgia Power or something like that, or perhaps get philanthropic funds that would allow us to establish an Office of Outdoor Recreation for a couple of years, with the understanding that the state would then take over its operations afterwards. Our second major initiative is to advocate for the creation of a statewide trails master plan. If you look at sister states like North Carolina and Florida, this is something they've done. And we see it happen in a regional level here. I know that the Coastal Regional Commission recently adopted a bike and pedestrian plan, but we really need to knit them all together, because that way the sum can be greater than the sum of its parts, and we actually will have more there in terms of bringing people to Georgia and creating that integrated experience for folks. And last, for those of you who don't know, the statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, that is required by law, federal law, if you want to access that federal funding from the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is about $900 million a year. So every 5 years, states have to get together and figure out how they want to make their investments into outdoor recreation. That's called SCORP. We're using this as a foundation to advocate for that Office of Outdoor Recreation and for that Trails Master Plan. And we actually have 5 members of GORK who are a part of that initiative. So why should you care? You should care because outdoor recreation is big business, and states that invest in outdoor recreation, not just creating the opportunities, but marketing them and incorporating them into their corporate recruitment and tourism strategies, reap the financial windfall. Nationally, outdoor recreation is an $887 billion business that generates more than 7.5 million jobs, as well as nearly $60 billion in local and state tax revenue nationwide. Due to the nature of outdoor recreation, the vast majority of these jobs cannot be sent offshore. You cannot paddle and camp through the Okefenokee in China. Similarly, Georgia's Golden Isles can only be experienced here at home in Georgia. So what does outdoor recreation look like in Georgia? It generates $27.3 billion in economic activity and 238,000 jobs in Georgia. One of the big drivers is state and national parks. From 2017, we see that we had more than 10 million visitors to state parks. and they contributed more than $1 billion to the state economy. The Okefenokee National Wildlife Recreation Area attracted 723,000 visitors, including 490,000 non-residents, people who came from outside the region to experience the swamp. They spent $64 million, helped support 753 jobs, and generated more than $5 million in local and state taxes. You have another great opportunity here on the coast, an East Coast Greenway, which is building a trail actually all the way from Maine to Florida along the coast, and you have a very active group working on that here. And really, I think if you look throughout Georgia, a great example of a town or a city that has leveraged outdoor recreation for economic development, for community regeneration is Columbus and its Riverwalk, where the city embraced the Chattahoochee River, built a whitewater rafting course, built a zip line, and really reoriented the entire city to the Chattahoochee, to outdoor recreation. And I think it's one of the big success stories we've seen here in Georgia. Now, here are just a few examples of how outdoor recreation drives economic development. Tourism is a huge part of this, and Georgia features some of the best outdoor recreation opportunities in the nation, from our coast to our mountains, with almost every type of water body or river imaginable. I believe that we've just begun to scratch the surface of outdoor recreation tourism in Georgia, that our state has experiences and the destinations that can allow us to compete not just with North Carolina, but with Colorado and Utah for tourist dollars. That being said, I want to place outdoor recreation within the broader context of this conference. You are focusing on 3 pillars, with outdoor recreation being part of one of them. I encourage you to think of the pillars holistically, because that's the way that tourists do. Sure, there are plenty of hardcore paddlers who will fly across the country for a particular experience, or foodies who can spend a week experiencing local cuisine in a specific location, but most of us are looking to mix it up on our vacations, so having that diversity of experience really will help drive tourism. Here in Georgia, we're seeing that local businesses already are picking up on this kind of cross-fertilization among the 3 pillars. Here are 3 quick examples that combine outdoor recreation with African-American culture and food. So while you invest in creating the destinations and the experiences, do not overlook the importance of marketing and cross-marketing. Just as Georgia has unique recreational experiences, we have unique cultural and local food experiences too. Our residents do not need to leave the state to experience them, and people from other states will come to Georgia for that experience. I'm going to share just one such example. It's kind of grown organically. A friend of mine helped create a nonprofit called the Bike Race Across Georgia, BRAG, Dream Team in 1994. The Dream Team engages urban youth and trains them to participate in BRAG. After it became a nonprofit in 2013, the BRAG team expanded across the state and actually has a chapter in Dublin. Donors for the 20th anniversary sponsored, you see a picture here of the King to King 2-week ride from the Atlanta King Historic Park to Dr. King's Memorial on the National Mall. All along the way, they stopped at hotels, ate at restaurants. Again, you see that generation of revenue for those taking advantage of the tourist dollars. In 2015, they co-hosted the Gullah Geechee Youth Bike Tour from North Carolina to Florida, where riders discovered the Gullah Geechee Kunda Cultural Center in Riceboro, Georgia. And literally, they're driving along, saw a sign alongside the road, and went there. They participated in a low country boil, and they actually got several hours of Gullah Geechee education and entertainment while they were there. From this interaction, 2 years later, the Geechee Kunda Dream Team Club was founded, and the club now hosts and participates in rides, investing in Georgia's coastal economy. So some lessons are, people like to bike along the coast. Gullah Geechee culture is a draw. People will go out of their way to experience it. And you're seeing this type of activity with relatively little marketing or coordination. As I mentioned, it was just by happenstance that the Dream Team found the Kunda Center. And I'm sure that there are dozens, if not hundreds of other similar stories about how such small-scale economic impact can happen. And again, that is a multiplier effect. So thanks again for the opportunity to present. I want to emphasize the selfish nature of my agreeing to participate in this conference, a mutual selfishness, if you will. Outdoor recreation can help tourism. Similarly, tourism can help drive outdoor recreation. When we meet with state leaders and local leaders, we often talk about the economic impact of outdoor recreation as a reason why they should invest in it. And tourism is no small part of that. So I again invite you to get involved in the Georgia Outdoor Recreation Coalition. I invite you to register for the Georgia Trail Summit, which will take place actually next Monday and Tuesday, the 9th and 10th of November, virtually online. And I now am happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for the opportunity.
George, thanks for this wonderful presentation, and yeah, great points. And just as a reminder, everybody, we look forward to having our first discussion on these points that George has talked about on Friday, November 6th from 10:30 to 12. Make sure you go sign up, and you can do that at the Marine Extension Georgia Sea Grant website. Thanks for listening to this presentation, and we'll talk to you soon.